Welcome to the Sneak Peek 2 for the all-new SimpleSeps Overprint, a revolutionary new plugin from AdvancedTshirts.com for Corel Draw relating to working with overprinting for screen printing and automating the process. This is a revolutionary new system unlike anything that's ever been seen before in screen printing. This is going to give those of us that work in screen printing a unique advantage over our competitors. The fact is, working in screen printing, we're typically working with 2 or 3 spot colors. For years, as we've looked at color in screen printing, we've looked at spot colors and said, well, that would be a 6-color job, or that would be an 8-color job. Now, with the introduction of SimpleSeps Overprint, we're going to be able to look at these jobs in an entirely different way and start to create 2 or 3-color jobs that look like they have 10 or 15 different colors. We'll also be able to mix and match and blend our colors similar to what we've referred to as simulated process for raster images in the screen printing industry, but now bringing that over to the vector side and then effectively working with our spot colors. The fact of the matter is, if you have working with just as little as 3 spot colors or 4 spot colors, you can create designs that look like they have 15 or 16 different colors. You have many different color options available to you through the process of overprinting. Now, what is overprinting? And we'll get to this at the end of the video, but it's simply the process of printing halftone dots on top of or next to each other to create the illusion of different colors or blending of colors. And once we understand how that works and how we can work with the overprinting plugin from AdvancedTshirts.com, we're going to see that we can start to compete more effectively in our local screen printing markets, that we can present better artwork, more colorful artwork to our clients, even though we're working within a very small number of spot colors. And we'll come to the place that we understand that what we really have available to us with these spot colors is actually a number of different colors, and then we'll start to understand how we can leverage that. You'll also see the benefit in the fact that if a client brings in a piece of art and it looks like it's 6 or 7 colors and you understand how overprinting works, you'll be able to look at it and realize that you can recreate that with 3 or 4 spot colors, giving you the ability to underbid your competitors in the bidding process for screen printing. Also, as I said before, giving you the ability to create designs that look like they have far more colors than they actually do. To go ahead and get started here, the first thing we want to do is take a look at the Color Management tab. And here we're able to do some color conversions, select colors, select objects, replace colors, etc. Very critical to the overprint process, and we'll see that as we go through this particular session. The first thing I want to do is I'm working with a very simple lumberjack football design here, and perhaps some of you have seen this before, but I like to use this design because it has many different colors as a way to demonstrate how we can get this down to actually 4 colors, or 4-color or 3-color design if we're working with it correctly. Now, that relies, or actually depends on, being able to overprint. We'll take a look at this. First thing I'll do is create a selection palette here. I can see I've got 15 different colors and tints. I'm going to bring this down to Pantone colors because we have to be working in Pantone colors when we're dealing with the overprinting. So I'm going to take the black, the golden yellow, the white, the red. I'm going to go ahead and keep the 3 browns because I want to replace those. So that's going to take me down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors. Now, when I replace these 3 browns through overprinting, I'll be down to 4 colors. I'm going to go ahead and click on one-click conversion. That'll go ahead and process that. Now I've got nothing but Pantone spot colors to work with. Now, here we can see that we replaced our flesh tone with a red, but I'm going to go ahead and replace that with a blend of the yellow and the red to make it look more like flesh. Not that this isn't effective, but getting a better looking flesh tone is obviously going to impact the look of the graphic. I'm going to go to my Overprint Conversion tab here. Got everything selected here. I'm going to click on Create Selection Palette. Now, we can create overprinting palettes with up to 3 color blends. We can't do 4, 5, and 6 color blends. It starts getting a little bit too complex for the computer systems, and it takes too long to generate the palettes. When I create this palette, I'm going to select my golden yellow, my red, and my black. This will be a 3-color overprinting palette. And once I've selected those colors, I come down here to Generate Overprint Palette. We'll go ahead and click on that, and we'll see what starts to happen here is that we're actually creating a palette of all the different blends available of those 3 colors. So we'll start getting different oranges and browns and blacks and flesh tones and things like that. There are different colors that we can generate using halftones and printing in what has been referred to in the industry a simulated process style of printing coming off of vector with overprints. Now these palettes will take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to generate when they're 3-color palettes. 2-color palettes are much smaller, and of course they generate much more quickly or faster than we do with these 3 color overprint palettes. But you can see that what we're doing is we're going through and creating all of these blends. Now this is a system intensive process, so while this is processing, it's a good idea not to do anything with your computer. This will take another minute or two to process. I'll go ahead and let this process, and then we'll continue with this session after we've processed the palette. Once our overprint palette is finished processing, we'll be able to see that here in our CorelDRAW workspace, and we can see that we've come off of 3 Pantone colors here, and here are all of the different shades, tints, and tones of the blends of that color that are available through overprinting. Now we'll go ahead and scroll back up here, and we can see we start out with a simple 2-color blend, which is just the red and yellow blended. Then we have the yellow blended with the black for different shades of that yellow. You can see it almost starts to look green here. Then we have the red with all of the available red with black overprints, and then we get into the overprints of the red, black, and yellow, which starts to get us into different browns, darker browns and oranges and different things like this. So working with just 3 spot colors, I now have a color palette that consists of somewhere around 700 different colors, shades, and tints I can work with, both in the design process or in the production artwork process of getting my colors down. And we're going to get this down to just 4 colors here. We're also going to replace the red with a overprint color that looks more like a flesh. So to get started here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to my SimpleSeps Overprint, and I'm going to go back to the color management tab. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and replace this brown here. Now if I want to, while I'm color replacing, I can zoom in and really see how accurate my overprinting color replacements are while I'm working with them. To do that, I'll go ahead and we'll just go ahead here and click on this brown color chip. I'm going to go over here to Object Selection. I'm going to select all of those objects. I've got 9 objects here, and I'll go ahead and move this over, and then I can get back to my color palette here. Now looking at this brown, I can come over here and start to look at some of the different colors that I have here and start to look at, is that a match or not. Now if I go ahead and left click here, I'll replace that, and you can see that was too dark when I changed that color. I'm going to hit Control Z. Come over here and click something like this. That's still a little bit too dark. I want to see up here's a little bit of a lighter color. I just hit Control Z to go back. And you can see now that's almost a perfect match right there. Very little change in color. So I've got a good match on that brown. I'm going to go back to my overprinting here, and I'll go ahead and move this here a bit and this here just a bit also, just so that you can see everything here. I'll go ahead and I'm going to click this off. I'm going to click off in my workspace. I'm just going to hit Control A in CorelDRAW, and what that'll do is select everything on my page. Now when you're working in overprint, you're going to have just your graphic on your page. You don't want objects out in the peripheral. This is a very complex script, and we need to just work with one page of the graphic that we're working with. Now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and get this lighter shade of brown here. With everything selected, I hit Control E. I'll come over here and click Select Objects, and here I've got 5 objects with that lighter shade. Now looking at this shade here, I come up into this palette and I start looking at what color seems to match that the best, and I can click there and I can see that's a little bit too light. So I'll hit Control Z and go back. If I come up, say here, well, we're getting a little bit closer, and you can see how we're going in depth of color as we go through. Something like here, that's a little too light, and that's almost exact right there. Maybe a little bit too yellowish. I might want to come down and check something like this color here. That's too dark. That's coming off of here. Hit Control Z there. That's very close. That's really close. And hit Control Z here, and I would say that that's going to be a close enough match for me on this. So now I've replaced 2 of the browns. I only have 1 brown left, and that's down here, and I know that that's in the pants here. So I'll just go ahead and select that with a left click. Now I can come over here and look at different browns to replace that with and see what colors I have that I like. Now I'll hit Control Z and I'll go back 1, 2, 3, 4 times. There's the original. There's the replacement. Now I've just eliminated 3 colors from my design working with the overprinting palette, which will now get me down to 4 colors. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here. The next thing I want to do is I want to replace these flesh colors, and I'll hit Control A again. That's select all. Control A. I'm going to go ahead and click off of this brown. I'm going to come over here and click on this lighter flesh tone and click on Select Objects, and we've got 6 objects there. Now I know that I'm going to have what looks like a flesh tone up here at the top where my reds and yellows are blending. And we can look at a color like this and replace that, and you can see that looks much more like a flesh than the original. I'm going to hit Control Z 2 times. Actually, we'll come back here and we'll hit that, and that actually looks a bit more like a flesh. I'm going to go ahead and click off. I'll go back here to my overprints. I'll deselect this, click off here. I'll just hit Control A. Go ahead and select the darker color, which is going to be the shading for the flesh. Go ahead and click on Select All Objects. I've got 6 objects again. And I'm going to go back here, and then I can just come in to say something like right here, and I'll get a darker color for my flesh. Now what I'll do, going back here, I'm going to go ahead and click off and just hit Control A, select everything. We had 7 colors. Now let's go ahead and click on Create Selection Palette. Now here what this says is we got 9 colors, but actually if I come over here now, and I'll go ahead and deselect all of this here, and then I'll click on Generate Overprint Design, and we'll let that process, and that's going to bring my colors down to actually 4 colors. With a white, I could print this on a white garment with this look with just 3 colors as opposed to 6 or 7 or 10 colors. And we'll let that process, and then we'll take a look at what we get after that process. Now looking on my overprints page here, once again, if I go ahead and click on Create Palette with everything selected, you can now see that I'm down to 4 colors. And all of this graphic, except for the white, has been recreated with the colors in this color palette, and then overprint or blends of the other colors. And we can see that back on page 1 we have our original, and our accuracy is very good in that overprinting. So we can see that using this overprinting technology that we can create designs just with a few colors that look like they have many different colors, and we can see the distinct advantage that we're going to have when we're working in a competitive environment of business such as we're dealing with in screen printing. Now just to demonstrate how this would work, what I'd like to do at this point in time is go ahead and convert this to halftones, and we'll take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead at this point. I won't be needing the SimpleSeps. The SimpleSeps Overprint, so I'll go ahead and minimize that, and I'm going to come here, I'm going to go to my SimpleSeps 3, and we'll go ahead and open that, and we'll take a look at how this works from a halftone printing standpoint. As long as you can hold halftones decently, you'll be just fine. I'm going to go to the Separations tab, I'm going to go to Halftones, and we're going to see our colors here. Now I'm going to change this because of the size of the graphic and for demonstrative purposes. Instead of going at 45, I'll actually go at 65 LPI because this is a little bit smaller and I want things to process faster in the video. 65 here, and sometimes when you're blending, it's nice if you can print at higher LPIs. Now of course this will look good at 45, that's not an issue. It's just that the graphics really only about 7 inches wide. If I had it out at 12 inches wide at 45, that would be fine. Now here I'm going to do something with my angles. I'm going to shift my angles by 30 degrees just to offset them a little bit. I'll go from the darkest to the lightest. So I'll go ahead down here at the lightest, I'll go 22.5 up here with the red, I'll go with 53.5, and with the black I'll go with 82.5. So these are just 30 degree shifts in our angles. The white I'm not going to have to worry about. Now let's go ahead and click here, and I'll click on Generate Separations, and we'll let that process, and then we'll take a look at how this would work as halftone screen printing, and how our color would be created through the blending of the halftone dots with their angles shifted. Let this process, and it'll take just a minute to convert everything to halftones here. One thing we'll want to be aware of is that if we're dealing with our Pantone whites, we're going to want to do our conversion based on page 1. Pantone white being generated out of an overprint is going to show the white that was beneath those overprint colors. Now we put white beneath all of the overprints so that we can deal with the color accuracy. So this particular Pantone white is not going to be usable. If you're printing the Pantone trans white, I would suggest that you do a color conversion back here on page 1 and then go ahead and sep that white out. I'm going to come here and I'll go ahead and right click here, and I'll go ahead and delete this page because we're not going to need that. Now here I've got my Pantone 1, 2, 3, and that's actually my golden yellow. So I'll go ahead and right click there. Now here I've got the black, and then on the last page I've got the red. I'm going to go ahead and change this to a red with a right click. I'm going to go back to my yellow here, I'm just going to hit Control C here. I'll go back to the red and I'll hit Control V, and then we can take a look at these halftones and see what's going to happen here. Now we can see some blending going on here. Now we're going to want to be aware of print orders here, because you can tell that yellow is kind of overpowering that red. So when I'm printing, I'm probably going to go to with the yellow first, but I'll right click on this and I'll select order, and I'll go to back of page, and then we can see the change there. Now what's happening here is we've got the yellow going down in halftones, and we've got the red going down on top of that. Now looking at that, we can see red and yellow in halftones, but what's going to happen is, looking at that from a distance, it's going to look like an orange or a brown. As you can see what's happening over here, creating the illusion of flesh. Now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and go to my hexachrome black here. I'll go ahead and copy that. I'll bring that back here, and then we'll go ahead and paste that in. And now you can see the look that we're getting based on the halftones that we're, and we can see that we have what looks like our browns here and our flesh all set up as halftone dots. Now to see just how accurate this is, and you can see when you're working in Draw that as you zoom out on these monochrome bitmaps, it doesn't render very well, and that's just the rendering, because if we zoom back in, we can see very clearly what's going on with our color and our dots here. Now looking at this, what I want to do is just go ahead and select everything here, and I'll just convert all of this to a bitmap. So I'm going to go to bitmaps, convert to bitmaps, go with RGB, I'll go at 300 DPI, and I'll have my anti-aliasing turned on. I'll select OK, and we'll let that process. And we're just going to kind of simulate what's going to happen with this halftone printing on press, so we can compare this method of overprinting, which is printing these colors on top of each other as halftones, with the original graphic. And that'll take just a minute to process. Now looking at this, we can see that we look like we've got a design that's got the light brown, the shirt, the shading, the hat, all the different browns going on here, the flesh tones and everything, and all the different colors. Remember, this is only 3 colors coming out of that overprinting palette. I'll hit Control C here, go all the way back to page 1, we'll hit Control V, and we'll paste in, and we can see just how close we are on these colors here. And actually, to make this look a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Effects, I'll go to Bitmaps, and I'll go to Blur, and I'll hit Gaussian Blur here, and we'll just give that a 1 pixel blur, and I'll select OK. So we can see that things render a little bit differently here, but we can see how we can use this overprinting to be able to do color reduction, print many more colors than what we would ever imagined we could have printed working with just 2 or 3 spot colors. We can also use it when we're dealing with customer supplied art. If we find ourselves in a bidding war or something like that, and we know how to work with overprinting, we can typically significantly undercut the competition if we explain to our clients that we can create these colors with blends. So we'll go ahead and wrap here. Thanks for taking time to preview our sneak peek 2 of the Advanced T-Shirts SimpleSeps Overprint Plugin, which will be available very shortly from AdvancedTshirts.com.